Well, hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be sharing with you my recent adventures in the beautiful city of Seattle and some of its surrounding cities. I happened to be there visiting my sister-in-law and her family, so we got to play tourist and got to visit some of the most iconic places in Seattle, as well as some quirky places that are definitely worth visiting and which I had never been to before. So let's jump in and discover some of my recommendations for the top things to do in Seattle, as well as some of the fun and delicious places to eat and drink that we got to enjoy. And of course, we'll start at one of the most iconic places in Seattle. One cannot think of Seattle without conjuring images of the famous Pike Place Market. And it is one of those places that, even though I had gone to before, I had never really explored it. So this time, even though it was towards the end of the day, we got to see all the different floors and the so-called down under area, and got to see a few of the stores that were open a bit later. Next, we got to visit the famous Fremont Troll, which is located in the Fremont neighborhood in Seattle under the George Washington Bridge. One of the fun tidbits that I found out was that it is clutching an actual Volkswagen Beetle, as if it had just swiped it from the roadway above. It actually has a California license plate, which is interesting. Originally, the car held a time capsule that had a plaster bust of Elvis Presley, but apparently it was stolen when the sculpture was vandalized. The Troll has appeared in movies and TV shows, including Once Upon a Time, where I first saw it. But the one in the TV show was a recreation of the actual one, since the show was filmed in Vancouver, Canada. Following my sister-in-law's recommendation, we checked out the Museum of Flight, which was really fun. I didn't realize that it is the largest independent non-profit air and space museum in the world. It has over 175 aircraft and spacecraft, tens of thousands of artifacts, millions of rare photographs, dozens of exhibits and experiences, and a world-class library. Although we couldn't see it all, the most fun part for me was getting to check out all the aircrafts in the aviation pavilion. For you youngsters that may not have been around this time, this is the famous Concorde supersonic jet. It was a collaboration between British Airways and Air France, and it started in 1956. It was meant to be a glamorous and luxurious flight experience, and it flew at speeds over 2 times the speed of sound, and at altitudes up to 60,000 feet. Concorde could fly from London to New York and return in the time it took a conventional aircraft to only go one way. A tragic accident in Paris in the year 2000 led to a decrease in demand. That, together with rising operating expenses, led them to terminate the services in 2003 after 27 years. The first presidential jet plane was a specially built Boeing 707-153, and it was known as SAM, S-A-M, for Special Air Mission 970. This aircraft carried the call sign Air Force One when the president was on board. It was designed to be a flying oval office with a modified interior and state-of-the-art communication equipment. Well, state-of-the-art for back then, of course. Eisenhower became the first U.S. president to fly by jet on SAM 970 on August 26, 1959. It remained in the presidential fleet, ferrying VIPs and the vice president until June of 1996. Next, we venture out to the Pacific Bonsai Museum, which is located in Federal Way, about 25 miles south of Seattle. It is an open-air museum inside a large forest, and it displays about 50 to 60 of its 150 bonsai specimens at any given time. It is one of only a handful of public museums in the world solely dedicated to the art of bonsai. And of course, no visit to Seattle would be complete without taking time to appreciate its delicious local food and drink opportunities. And when we think drinks and Seattle, only one thing comes to mind, right? Coffee. That's right. So of course, we had to check the Starbucks Reserve and Roastery, located just 9 blocks from the first ever Starbucks store in the Pike Market. That one is always so packed that I've only seen it from the outside. But I hope this one, probably being bigger, would not be as crowded. After visiting the one in Chicago recently, I was eager to see what this one's going to look like. Interestingly, even though this one was not as large as the Reserve store in Chicago, which was an entire 5 stories building, it had a lot of similarities. They both had the same coffee menu, the same princey baked goods, signature experiences you can sign up for, the Riviamo cocktail bar, and a super impressive coffee making installation right in the center of it all. They really want to make sure you know what they're all about. They even had a similar ceiling and the tubes overhead carrying, I presume, coffee beans to and from. And in terms of a place for dinner, you cannot go wrong with the many choices offered by the Pike Place Market. We opted for the Pike Place Bar and Grill, which has been in operation for 60 years in this area. The service was super friendly and the food did not disappoint. I had the Northwest chicken, a delicious chicken cooked in wine, butter, and capers, and my husband had a classic chopino, both delicious. But if you're in the mood for something more exotic and don't mind driving a bit farther away from downtown Seattle, don't miss out the Royal Orchid Thai restaurant in Renton, about 12 miles south of Seattle, which is one of the favorite places of my sister-in-law and her family. They offer their food in different degrees of spiciness, from 1 to 4, I believe, which is good for wimps like me that cannot handle the heat. For dessert, we really enjoy this innovative ice cream cafe that specializes not only on cafe food, but ice cream, beer, and wine. It is aptly named the Frosty Barrel and is located in Newcastle, about 11 miles south of Seattle. They have some very fun offerings like their pairings, like hot chocolate, beer, or wine with ice cream, as well as my favorite, tableside s'mores. If I had not been so full from dinner, I would have loved to try those for sure. Okay, well that's all I have for you guys in this video for today. I hope you enjoy my recommendations and that if you're in the area, you go to some of those fun places I mentioned. As always, thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope to see you back again in this channel where I'll be tackling yet another experience I've never done before. Until the next time.